I'm live out here in these streets. Man, when I tell you I had to go through a thing, can you hear me? Anybody who's here? Holy moly. My mom just sent me a message. I put this live stream up at like 3 something, right? All the intentions of being right on time. But then I had this situation with my cell phone that I decided to finally try to put a button on. Um, and it took forever, man. It took forever. Um, let me just tell you what happened. Let's see if I'm missing one light. Hold on. Let me see if I can get this together. I need this one light. Give me 1 second. Terrible, terrible. Holy moly. So what I'm hoping to do is when this live stream is over, maybe I can cut this portion out and just kind of start when we actually start. 1 second. All right. What's happening? I'm about 5 minutes late. I apologize for that. Please forgive me. So it is November 1st. I would say cold weather is upon us. Um, and it's getting interesting. My sun is getting lower in the sky. And I really have to figure out some things as it relates to this weather because not weather, the angle of the sun. And while my situation may be um, interesting, hopefully there's something in what I'm talking about that could apply to you. I took some pictures. I grabbed my phone. I went out and I took some pictures, and I had the intention of dumping those pictures onto my computer, but I did not get a chance to, and I don't have my phone on me. Let me go grab my phone. Uno momento. My mom sent me another message. Oh man, I'm gonna have to call my dad. Holy moly. All right, let me try and get these files here. While I do that, what do I do with my wire? Lauren Hill has a on her Unplugged album. She was asking for somebody to reach her stuff. If you follow Lauren Hill, you know she doesn't have a good track record with doing anything well these days. Um, she'll cancel shows, she'll be late, but she's asking for somebody to reach her something. And she has this tone by which she says, ghetto. And that's what came to mind. What is that? What is that? Can I use that? Speaking of, the Exploring Comms channel is live. If you're into communications and you want to go along for the ride, as me and my homeboy kind of explore communications, search for that channel, find that channel, subscribe to that channel, right? The solar. I have, and I really wanted to be able to show this. I have six um, 300 or so watt panels, and they're really getting hammered by shade. So much so that I'm looking at these trees across my alley, and I'm really wondering, like, can I possibly get a Craigslist job for somebody to come out and just trim the trees? Now, the property is not mine, obviously. I don't even think the property belongs to the person's house who's there. It's supposedly a field, and the field belongs to somebody who's related to my other next door neighbor. So I just want to be able to like crop these top trees to let some of this sun come in. Oh man, I don't know. I'm getting I like running my house off of solar using male to male cables. Um, and I can't do it as much because I basically have a situation where these panels, because of how they're configured, I'm gonna get into that in a second, they're causing me some problems and I'm not able to get as much sun as I would when the sun is higher in the sky. But it's okay. It is what it is. I deal with it every year. Every year, my solar system is kind of like a little bit different. So it's a new adjustment. And I'm entering into that phase of figuring out what the heck is going on in this particular season. Um, so right now, I have six panels. They are, let me see if Seti is around because he may want to be around while it's live. He doesn't like watching live streams. Um, so the six panels, they are each, hey, the six panels are basically all, they're in three sets and they're all in parallel. And what I've been thinking about is like, man, I have to figure out a way to get solar more throughout the day. Then I have a 400 watt Bouge RV panel that I really need to figure that out because while it is mobile, I can move it because it's a singular panel. It's plugged into a power station that doesn't really impact my overall power coming into the house. I need a USB-C cable. That is not one. Actually, I do have one. So while that joker can be moved, it doesn't really, it's bonus power, as I'd like to say. I really want to try and get this footage on here. These pictures, let's see if I can do it. Um, let's see, trust computer, boom dizzle. So I can show you guys what I'm looking at here. Right click, import pictures. Review next today. I got 10 items in here from today. That's interesting. Get them in there. Just for a little bit of levity, I was shooting videos day before yesterday. I shot one where I was trying to power my toaster because my son wanted some toast, and I literally just pulled the house offline. And toasters, it's a heating element, so it's going to use a lot of power. I shot a video to see how much power it would use. I ran a cord from the Super Vito man that's on the landing that is connected to the Bouge RV 400 watt panel. It's bonus power, right? Um, and all of my videos, they were recording in slow motion. So pretty much useless. And I shot another video about my Renogy 320, not my Renogy Eclipse 100 watt panel. I was talking with Setite about that. So I was trying to figure out what the problem is. Why did it stop working? So I was looking at the junction box and all of that jazz. And I shot that video in slow motion. I went to change my frame rate and I was looking and it was like 120, 240. I'm like, what? I didn't update my iPhone recently. Why would I be doing like, HD at 120 frames per second? I was in slow mo. I did record the Eclipse video again, but I did not record uh the other video again. Man, it was just it was a that day was a struggle in that moment. It certainly was. Okay, we got my iPhone 12 dump. Let's see if these pictures are in here. Man, this is annoying. Where do my pictures go? Photos folder? That would make sense. Sometimes I forget that I have a plan. And I'm like, did you do what you were supposed to do? Hit it, go. Okay, let's grab and drag and minimize and share screen. We'll open the image viewer. I feel like my computer could have used a restart as well, but I'm not going to nitpick. Window. We'll do. What kind of file is that? Hi, something, blah, 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 blah. Okay, let's share that. All right, so I wanted to crop this. So this is what I'm looking at. I don't know if you can see my mouse. Can you? These are my panel arrays. They are in parallel. It's a whole bunch of cables. This, we got to ignore this over here, the 5 panels to going into the AC 200p, but this is my Bourgeois V closest near the cones. So basically, you can't see the trees, but the trees are right across that street back there. One tree is kind of like thinning out because of winter. I don't think the other tree is going to thin out. The other tree is probably not going to be able to be topped in any capacity. So I have all of this space over here on the right in my yard. This particular panel typically will move somewhere off screen over here. It goes way over there. And it'll get sun maybe at like if the 2 trees are like, let's say this one's a little thinner, this one's a little fuller. When the sun gets beyond this tree right here, that panel starts to get sun, which is nice. But what I want to do is I have to figure out a way to be able to get, and I don't know which way I'm gonna go, to be honest. I'm trying to figure this out now. I just thought I'd take you guys along for the ride. I can put I can get some extension cables, right? MC4 extension cables, let's say maybe like 30 foot. This is the less optimal situation. And then I take one of these panels in the morning, and then I can grab it and bring it over here with the 400 so that this particular array, which is on my Duran, then that power station is getting power. The reason why I'm talking about the Duran is because the Duran is one of the power stations that is running my house. It's actually running my house right now, I think. That one runs the right side of my panel. And then the Alcatel runs the left side of my panel. I do believe that the Alcatel is on this middle array that is not as far away. And then the all powers is on this one. All of these power stations, as I've said before, max out at about 50 to 60 volts. So I can't put the panels in series. Even if I could put the panels in series, I would have the same issue because even if they're in series and I could move them, so parallel is actually perfect for this situation. Even if they're in series, it's going to treat them as one panel anyway. So that sucks. I've really been trying to like consolidate my cables, and I really very badly want to have these panels up on this area right here. If you could see my mouse, maybe I can make my mouse a little more identifiable because it's what the heck, man, my computer's not charging. Oh, what a day. Okay, let's try and solve that problem. How can I solve that problem? I'll tell you how. I'm gonna grab the All Powers R600. It's at what, 98%? And I'm gonna plug my laptop into that USB-C. Because, oh, it's just not plugged in. Okay, that makes sense. All right, we getting somewhere. We cooking with grease. Let me find that plug in this mess of plugs. Boom dizzle. Okay, I'm still gonna plug it into the all powers. Because, okay, now we charging. Ooh, ooh. I'm back. So the reason why that was so important to do that just now my audio should be working now. Let me know. Hey, Chloe. Sound good? Sound gone. There it is. Okay. What a moment. I feel like I want to unplug the iPhone that I just plugged in. I'm not an iPhone guy, by the way, but I feel like that's going to mess it all up. It may go down again. Things get weird. Okay. It's mainly because my laptop wasn't plugged into power. Now, the reason why I was going to plug it into the All Powers R600 was my fridge is on my AC200P, which is sitting right here. So my fridge is pulling power constantly, and that may cause the whole thing to go down. So I was going to try and switch things around. But everything in my house is running off of power stations right now. So we are not on the grid, which is very, it can be challenging, but I still do it. All right. Let me see what y'all snapping and trapping about. Why not? I just adjusted my 5 panels to 58 degrees for the winter season. I use the optimal tilt app. It shows you the best angle where you live. Interesting. What's up, sleeper? Super solar man, I'll take it. Thanks, Mark, for being around. Sleeper, what's happening? There are sales on. Okay, you hit me with your currency. Oh yeah, on Amazon. Power banks. Interesting. For who? What company? Thank you. I appreciate it. Appreciate it. All right. So I'm in this situation with this panel array where I need to figure out something, and that's what's going on now. The situation where I can put these panels, give them longer parallel cables, so that at least one of them, just one would be fine to be able to grab and put out in my yard in some capacity to gather up sun. Now, if you have space to just have your panels out there and tilt them like Nathan was saying, and not have any shade come onto your panels for a good bit of the day. Hey, son. Jojo, can you go by the door and unplug that wire so that that power station stops beeping? Pause the show. Go over by the front door and unplug the wire so that power station can stop beeping. It's the little wire closest to the door. I really need more flexibility in my setup. So what's going to happen here is during the winter, we use my garage. So these panels right here, thank you. All of these are going to go up here and they're going to lean up against the fence, I don't know what's going to happen with this one. It'll probably do the same thing, but it's a little more annoying to grab this one and put it up here and be taking it down and moving it around. It's very interesting. Now, you guys haven't even seen the video yet. Did I catch footage of it flying? I think maybe I did, but my panels, the wind took them on one of my, one day. The wind was coming through there really, really strong. And it took my panels and flipped 2 of them over, unplugged some cables. They did not break. I was thankful to that, thankful for that. But they're going to all go up. And I need to be able to figure out how to get power into my house because look, during the summer months, the sun, that's another thing. The last two winter seasons have been really bad for solar. It's just been like dark overcast a lot of the days. Even Jason Nova was saying the same thing. He was kind of struggling with his situation. His yard is kind of like his yard is bigger than mine, but he has some constraints in his yard that impede his solar production as well. But he has panels on a roof of his shed, which is nice. So what I'm really leaning towards, another option I have on the table is to possibly combine some of these panels into a charge controller. So if I combine them into a charge controller, these ones over here, maybe I take like 3 of these panels, put them in series. That would suck. Maybe I take 4 of these panels, put 2 in series, and then put those in parallel. I don't know if you can see that. Let me make my mouse bigger. I feel like some people are probably watching on cell phones and stuff like that. Mouse speed, mouse pointer. Let's bring this size up. Oh, too much. Okay. How about that? There we go. You enjoy my episode about the heating concerns. What was that? Was I talking about preparedness? And it was the heating portion of that. So I take these two, put them in series. Because here's the thing, I could live with these panels kind of getting sun when they get sun. But what I can't live with is all of them being shaded for the majority of the day, either in the morning because of trees, in the afternoon because of buildings that my neighbor built next to us that's blocking more and more of my sun every summer. I have to have something. Now there's another picture I want to show you. This is my front yard. Thank you. It's Ivan. Did you snooze or stop? Okay. So this is my front yard situation. I have a Renogy 320 and then a Bouge RV 200. And even this I need to adjust because this panel right here is actually the panel that's closest to the door. It has the shortest amount of cable and it's really like a bonus panel, but it's the biggest panel. This one right here is plugged into my my Buetti AC 60 with the B80 battery. So it's about 1100 or so watt hours of battery capacity. This panel, when it's in sun for the majority of the day, will kind of get that close to being full. Um, so what I want to do is I want to have the 300-watt panel be the panel that is more so a staple in the front zone because right now this one is, and the big panel is optional. So I need to switch that up. The problem with that, or not the problem, the challenge with that I need to do is this is on I think it's a 10 gauge 40-foot cable. I don't need a 10 gauge 40-foot cable right here. That was when early in the game before I understood the gauge of cables a little bit better. I don't fully understand them as well as I could, but I know that I don't need 12 gauge. I don't need 10 gauge right here. 12 gauge would be fine for a singular panel. I think 12 gauge is good up to, let's say about, uh, let's just call it 20 amps, but that's the max. So let's say good 15, 16 amps. So I want to switch that around, but the AC60 cannot take in high voltage. It's only a 12 volt panel. I need y'all to turn that down a little bit. Thank you. It's like the music gets really loud for some reason. So I want to switch that around. And what I'm thinking about is bringing my all powers upstairs to be in that zone. But I don't know what I would do with the AC 50. I have the AC 60 and the AC 50 now, so I get confused. But I'm going to change this wire out for a 50-foot 12 gauge cable so that this panel right here has more room to be maneuvered. Because what's going to happen as I get more and more into the winter months, I'll have a little bit of a sun on one side of my house, which is this side right here. This is the right side of my house. And then I'll have a little bit of sun on the left side of my house a little bit later. But for the most part, I think I remember the majority of my front yard being shaded throughout the majority of the day until the sun comes around on this arc of being kind of perpendicular with my front yard. It's all very now. I don't know if people have these kind of issues that I have. I don't know if you guys settle into just your solar lot in life. I can't do it. That has never been a hustle for me. I've always been about moving panels. I don't move them as much anymore, but I still do move them to chase the sun. And now, as my solar use goes up, my panels have gone up and my power draw has gone up a little bit as well. So I'm just kind of getting to this point where I want to figure out a system where I can maximize the solar input so I can stay off grid longer. And I think I can do it, man. We don't use a whole lot of power outside of big ticket items. And it also is pushing me closer and closer to needing a transfer switch. I've always needed a transfer switch, but the money that I have to spend to update the panel and then I'll have to spend money to put the transfer switch in. It's just the the monies, the coins ain't lining up like that as a priority. Now, could I do some things to try and make that happen? Sure, but it didn't really make sense for me initially when I was kind of playing around with some numbers. It's like, spend $2,200, $2,100, $2,000, $1,500 to get the panel upgraded, and then spend $400 on a transfer switch, and then somebody still has to install the transfer switch because I'm not going to do it to save um let's just say realistically, in a good situation, let's just call it $70 off of a $100 bill. You guys in these these alarms. Hey, go into your phones, turn off all of your alarms. I don't want to hear another alarm. The why doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Just do it. Now, if you thought about that why, you could figure it out, but you don't want to process through it. Put some effort in. You'll figure it out. Hey, Shafar Maid. I'm a little annoyed as well because of this cell phone situation. My wife threw away one of my SIM cards that was in the car door for a long time. Not annoyed at that. I understand. I wish she didn't throw it away. I wish she had mentioned to me that she was going to throw it away. But that's 20 years of marriage in the making. So it is what it is. Uh, but when I called them, I reached out to them to get me a replacement SIM card, and they were like, "It's on the way." Never arrived. Like, hey, we're having a delay with the SIM card. Now, these are Hello Mobile SIM cards. They're not my main SIM card. It's not my main service. It's $5 a month for 500 megabytes of data, unlimited talk and text, which is fantastic for $5 a month. Cell phone plans have kind of caught up to that, where you could get a $10 a month, like a gig. But anyway, so then they have to change carriers, and they're like, "Hey, we're sending you new SIM cards." And I'm like, "Okay, cool. Well, maybe they'll just send me 3 new SIM cards, and then I don't have to bother them about this one SIM card that never came." Don't you know? When they sent out the new SIM cards, all they sent me was 2. I needed to have 3. So I have 2 lines, and my wife has a line for business. So I spent all my time that I should have been using getting ready for this live talking to this guy in chat, asking me dumb questions. He's like, "What's the IMEI for the device?" Y'all, I have so many phones. And I'm like, "Dude, the IMEI doesn't matter. The phone that I put it in doesn't matter. Just send me a SIM card." He's like, "Our policies need a IMEI number." And I'm just like, so I just grabbed a phone and gave him the IMEI number from that phone. I was like, "Use this one." Then he tells me, y'all, the whole time I've been telling this cat I need a physical SIM. He's like, "Hey, it looks like this phone is eSIM capable. Would you like to go that route?" I'm like, "No, I want a physical SIM card." Then earlier in the conversation, the dude was like, "Hey, so what happened to the SIM card?" I'm like, "I lost it. I don't have it anymore." He was like, "Did you look around for it?" What does that matter? I need a SIM card. I'm paying you for service. I don't have a SIM card. Send me a SIM card, please. I'm telling this guy, like, "Look, I'm a tech savvy guy. I don't need all of these questions. Just send me my SIM card." But anyway, let's see here. Here. Device added to your account. Yeah, I could have used this phone. Any phone, like use whatever. Anyway, so yeah, back to these panels. What's up, old head? I haven't read your comment, but I do see your name. Um, so I need to change the situation around, But I need to do the video for the All Powers R1500. That's the only reason why I haven't put it into a permanent spot, because once I put it into a permanent spot, I don't want to have to pull it out of that spot. I've mentioned this before. I don't want to have to pull it out to make the video. So that's where I'm at with the front yard, and I really need to figure that situation out. Now, I would like if Bouge RV would send me their, what is it? They have a 200-watt bifacial panel that is a good bit smaller than this, that I would love to have in the front yard. And to be honest with y'all, let's go back a little bit. You see this situation back here? What I'm thinking about is taking a panel from back here out of parallel and replacing this one. How my wife is gonna feel about that? I don't know. She's used to two panels being in the front yard. She's actually used to a lot more being in the front yard. It's really a cause for concern in the summer months, but not as much in the winter months. So I may just take a panel out of this array and make this a singular panel array that can be moved around along with this one. These panels will be in series, in parallel into one power station or a battery type of situation. I do have a charge controller. Actually, that won't work for me because that charge controller maxes out at 750 watts. Y'all, these charge controllers are not all they're cracked up to be. All-in-one units are the way to go for me at this point. Now, if you got like two panels, a couple 100 watters, or a few 100-watt panels, and you have a charge controller that can get up to 150 volts, then yeah, you could make 6 Renogy panels, 6 Bouge RV panels, 6 HQST panels in series, in a series parallel situation work, because that's 600 watts. But I got 300-watt panels. I put 4 of them in a series parallel thing, and then that's 1,200 watts of solar going into a charge controller that can only do what, 750 watts. So it's not ideal. So that kind of shoots that plan in the foot. Let's see, what will you hang off the deck? The series in the upper right. I don't know if, so what's going on here? Setite is sending me, he's sending me some panel hooks that he 3D printed to go onto my banister. Hopefully the wood width is the same as his, which it kind of should be close. I mean, there's not a whole lot of variation there. Maybe there is. I don't build porch decks. What do I know? He's sending me that. And I think, when I think about it, bro, I don't know how helpful it will be for these big panels. I think it's going to be helpful for something like, hold on. It's going to be helpful for something like these 200 watters, because they're a little more easy to grab and put up on the hooks. But these jokers, that's some pretty significant stuff to be tossing around and hooking up to some wood. I'd feel more comfortable with these. So I don't know if I would put 2, that's for sure. If in any scenario, I would probably end up with having 1 panel on a pair of those brackets, or a few of them if that's necessary. So but we've talked about this before. In a situation where we can hang these panels on the joint, my son across this back area, I wish I had more footage to show. I got to start taking more pictures. So what happens is my banisters face this way. This is my porch. You can see my railing right here. So it goes all the way across. There's a break here, and then it goes a little bit further past this. You guys have maybe seen this when I show panels on my porch. I wonder if I pulled in any footage from the recent video that I shot. Let's see. Because then I could just grab stills, pause the video, and then show it. Hopefully the sound's not crazy. My sound is muted. Nice. Let's see how this works. The point that I'm getting at here, okay, yeah, I do have some footage here. That's pretty nice. The point that I'm getting at is with these situations, the porch does not face south. It really faces southeast. It's not very, dang, I'm shooting this angle so freaking tight. This may help. It might barely help. Let's see here. I need to change that and let's share window. So this is a part of the area that you can't see. This is the other panel that's on the right hand side. This sun reflector that you can see is kind of like right here, and that's south facing. All of this is south facing. So my sun starts off way over here somewhere. That's the kind of makings of the tree. This line is where I say when the sun kind of comes here this way, this line starts to get sun on my yard, and then it keeps moving this way. So if I hang a panel on this banister, it may get me a few extra, but then the sun ends up being over here. And I can't hang it here. That's counterproductive because of this stuff that my neighbor has over here. This was not here when we moved into this house. I don't think this fence was here when we moved into this house. And this shed was not here. And then he also has this like other big thing that he built, like a big canopy type of thing that casts shade. You can see the shade in my yard. That's from his stuff. I always say I will never move or live this close to somebody again. Um, I won't do it. Nope, 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 nope. So this could work. This over here could work for a little bit, for a good bit of the day. And then maybe I could have a panel down at the bottom and double stack it. Or I could bring the panel around from the front, the 300 watt that'll be on a 12 gauge cable that's 50 feet. I could bring that around the back, no problem. And it'll usually live somewhere in this area. But then I have the 400 watt that kind of lives in this area too for a little bit. So those two panels, if I could get a situation where I could kind of have those two panels be in the backyard for the majority of the sun that's in this area, from here, like from this area to this area, then I'd be good money for as far as like powering the house. Right now, our base load sits at about 80 watts when we're not cooking or something like that. And that also takes into account that I have a lot of other stuff not on the main solar system. So because I have zones, I really kind of, I don't know if I'm shooting myself in the foot because it's just how that I had to make it work. But like my two deep freezers are not on the wouldn't be on my full solar system. They're not plugged into my wall right now. My fridge is not plugged into my wall right now. It's on the AC 200p. The deep freezer and the vertical freezer is on like the Yolanis and then the All Powers R1500. But the house mainly runs off of the Alcatel and the Duran Duran. But something else that Setai is sending me is the Bluetti DC and that with the DC enhancer that allows you to throw that extra 500 watts of solar into the AC port, which is gonna mix things up a lot. It's gonna be dope, but it's gonna mix things up a lot. So I think what I'm gonna end up with is my new 120-volt friend, which is my Bouge V 2000 watt inverter that does, if you saw the review video, it does do 120. It kind of slacks off depending on what the load is on it, but I could live with that. Going down to 117, 116 is different than being at 110. And then some of these power stations, they'll drop from like 110 to 109, 108. So that sucks. So that in conjunction with the AC200P, which is now on the top floor, I feel like I need to move that down into the basement. And then what I'll do is I'll have the 300. Let's see here. That's interesting. I wonder if I could figure that out. I have the 300 watt. What was I trying to say? The 400 watt. I have the 400 watt Bouge V as a float going into the DC charge enhancer of the AC200P. So now the AC200P is going to be a staple. It'll basically just replace the Duran Duran. It'll either be on my, it'll either replace the Alcatel to run the left side, which I probably will do. And then I'll have the inverter run the right side hooked up to the TimGot battery. So the AC200P will have its 1000 watt array on it, which is the 5 panels, which I'm thinking about pulling a 200 out of there. I don't know. It'll have its 1000 watt array, and then it'll have this floating 400 that'll give it power during the times of the day when the 1000 watt array is not getting power, which in the winter months is a good bit of the day. I get sun maybe about like 3-4 hours, maybe a little bit longer, but it's also a lay flat array in the winter, which sucks. That's another reason why I'm thinking about pulling one of these panels out of that array, because one, I could use it. I'm down a 200 watt panel. I'm down a 200 watt panel in the Alriska. I'm down a 200 watt array in the HQST in the Renogy Eclipse, which used to be on my banister. It's a 100 watt array now. It's a 100 watt panel now. So I'm really starting to feel that if I could take that 200 watt out of rotation and then put it in rotation on the porch, then that would give me a better situation at my back door, which is where my EB70 and my OOPS 1800. Let's take a pause for the cause right quick. Let's see. I appreciate it. I see you're enjoying your kids on a Friday night, something like that. But we hang off the deck, talk about that. I don't see your mouse if you're pointing. Really? You can't see my mouse over here when I do this? You don't see that mouse? Yeah, I see it. So I feel like you should see it. I see it in the stream window right now. All right. It faces south. I talked about that a little bit. Not really. Yeah, it should be good for morning. Is that a shed on the fence? It's probably a code violation. Probably is. 117 is in spec. 110 is out of spec. Makes sense. Growing what I eat. What's happening? I can now. I didn't see it earlier when you were pointing. It was too small, I believe. I believe that's what was going on. That's why I made it larger, so it came through a little bit better. So if I get back, let's see, because this is interesting. If I stop and then I present, I might as well just present this whole window. But man, it's like you never know what I could be sharing sometimes. I try to be very intentional with not sharing anything more than I need to share. All right, add to stream, bring it up. Let's do that. And then let's do this. And then maybe, no, that's not helping. All right, that's a good joint right here. So in this situation, let's say what I really want to do is take one of these panels. I entertain bringing the Bouge RV up into the front yard. I just feel like it will be a little bit much. I'm going to try it though. I'm going to disconnect it and see what it looks like in my front yard. But I I really want to take one of these panels out of here and bring it up into the front and then have two 300-watt panels back there. Or maybe I take two of these, bring them both to the front, and bring the Renogy back, which is a 320. The Renogy is rated higher than all of these. A bunch of these are 290s, and two of them are 300s. So I could bring two 290s to the front and then rock out that way. And then I'll have to have two power stations that can take in higher voltage. So that essentially kicks my AC 60 to the curb. But I like that idea. I really do. So I'm stuck in a couple of situations, but I have some work to do this fall before we get into winter. This is where the Alriska typically was. It was in this spot, and then these two panels would all sit right here. So it was a 400-watt array going into the OOPS 1800. Two separate arrays, one 200 with the two panels in parallel, and then one 200 not just normal. And then I was running two 8mm cables into the OOPS because it has those dual MPPTs. But then when the Alriska died, I started moving things around. The OOPS started having issues with port issue. They replaced it. So I put the all powers. No, I think I have the Yolanis back there. The Yolanis is actually, this is interesting because the Yolanis is actually on this panel right here. That's its own panel. That panel is cracking up something terrible. It's literally like disintegrating. Falling apart. I don't know at what point the rain is gonna render it useless, but I'm gonna be honest with you. I'm going to use it until it dies, and then when winter comes, because we have to use the driveway, I won't be able to have that just out in the joint anyway. I don't know how with all of these solar panels, I'm still not getting enough power to just be okay. I don't understand that. It confuddles me. It befuddles me. It confuses me. It really does. But in the winter, I think it's going to be worse. That's why I'm really considering trying to get these trees trimmed. Shoot, I got a chainsaw, man, to keep it a buck. Could I do it, some aspect of it myself? Like the tree on the left, um, in this area right here, it's a very thin tree. And the interesting thing is my neighbor has already had his tree situation kind of thinned out. He had a company come out and I was asking him like, man, you happy with the work they did? He was like, man, I wish I could cut down all the trees. And my other neighbor was just like, yeah, you can't do that because it's not his property. So that's a fair point. But I don't know if I want the trees down because the trees provide me a little cover. They provide me a little privacy. So I like them. I just don't like how tall they are. And we talked about tree cutting down stuff maybe like last summer or summer before last. And people were talking about how expensive that service can be for somebody to come out. But that's why I was going to try and do something on Craigslist. So basically, I needed to catch my neighbor and talk with him because he said, you know, someone in his family kind of owns that particular plot. So it's going to be interesting. Um, I was nervous actually. I went downstairs to see what my kind of levels were. The Duran was at 44%. And my Alcatel, even though it's working now, the screen is just it's borked. Um, it doesn't show me anything. It shows everything it can show at one time is all illuminated. It does show me input and output, so those numbers aren't jacked. But the total capacity percentage just says 188, which I think is the max. Or you know, like the all of the in the LCD, the little 8 is all of the characters. So when they're all illuminated, it's an 8. So maybe it's so yeah, I couldn't trust that one. So I switched it over to the all powers. Um, it was at about 50%, but 50% on the all powers is only like 500 watt hours. So what I did was I took one of my batteries that has a 12-volt joint on it, and I plugged in a 12-volt to XT60, and now I'm charging the all powers. If I had an Android phone near me, I would show you, but I don't. And I don't have anything useful on these iPhones because they're not my main phone. Um, but my house is probably pulling maybe about 63 watts, and I'm putting in maybe like 83 or something like that, which is interesting. So the real question for me is, when am I going to tackle all of these projects? And specifically, when are you guys going to see them? Which brings me to a point. Thank you to those who support me on Patreon. I greatly appreciate it. I'm about to ramp up video posting on the Patreon. Um, I don't know if I'm going to keep the $3 plan because it was like 5, 10, and 20. I need to get rid of the $20 plan because I don't think that that's feasible. And even the perks that I have that set up for, they don't make sense. I got Patreon 2, 3 years ago, and I was kind of new to that process. Um, I've been debating on doing the YouTube stuff, but I'm not really the biggest fan of how YouTube splits the money. So maybe I'll do it because I think that the YouTube situation is easier for people. There's less of a, you're right here on the platform instead of going to Patreon. But I'm about to ramp up posting on Patreon. I record stuff all the time. And because I've gotten behind, it really impedes my ability to put out content regularly. So I'm getting caught up, catching up on some of these product videos that I need to put out. And then I'm going to start hammering through my backlog of videos that are interesting for people who like love solar. Like I was just shooting a video today about what was I shooting about? Actually, the Renogy panel that I was testing, I took my old OG Renogy, the 50 watt, and I put it in parallel with the 100 watt HQST. Because they're both 12-volt panels, I learned this from SetTight. There's no issue there because it's just going to take the 100 watts and combine it with the 50 watts because they're both at like 20 volts. So while you can't mismatch other panels, I have a video on this stuff. It didn't do very well. I think my thumbnail was probably not great. Hey, Grand Acres, what's happening? I think my thumbnail wasn't great. Let me see. Let me check this. 1 second. Videos. Search for parallel. And then boom, get shareable link. And then drop it. That video is pretty cool. All right. I've been looking at a solar inverter, the Vivor 3000 watt. Just ordered a 100 amp hour battery. Got to do more research, but I think I can do it. Interesting. I don't know how I feel about Vivor. I watched this video of the tool den guy who used to be on TV only as a bear, which I gotta respect. A lot of people don't like being on camera, but he's now on camera. And I feel like his bear, I think it's Den of Tools is the name of the channel. He was talking about Vivor. Me and Setai have talked about Vivor before. I actually meant to send you that video, but I never got a chance to. Maybe I did. I'm sure I didn't though. So I don't know how I feel about it. I think he kind of compared them to Harbor Freight, but they're into a whole lot of stuff. So I don't know. But that's never stopped anybody from buying stuff before. People buy stuff and it may not be what I what I would pick. But as I say, my pockets ain't your pockets. So you do whatever you feel is right. 3,000 watt inverter with a 100 amp hour battery. If you watched my inverter video, you know that that can work, but you can't push it past a certain amount of power or you'll have issues. Actually, Armand Allen was telling me about how I should put a fuse on it. And I don't know if I'm going to heed that advice or not, but it is good advice. I remember when I was watching Will's video way back in the gap when he was still like living in a RV. He was talking about a bolt-on fuse, but he said it a bolt-on fuse, and I'm like, "What's a bolt-on fuse?" Because I don't know, I didn't know nothing about that stuff, so I didn't know what he was talking about. But he literally just meant a bolt-on fuse that you bolt on to the line. It's funny what you don't know and how you can get confused. Plus, he pronounces some things interesting. Um, like he says button in an odd way. Um, so yeah, I've been watching some of his older videos about putting together DIY systems because I have a big inverter now, and I just kind of wanted to brush up on some of that stuff to make sure I'm not making any interesting mistakes. Like for one, he was saying, and I kind of knew this uh, in passing, but I wanted to brush up. He was saying, when you go, you do bolt like washer, and then you don't want to have anything in between your charge controller and the battery. Those joints shouldn't have anything else touching them, so they need to be flush. Which is things that I wanted to kind of brush up on so I could be sure when I start to configure these things, because I do want to get my charge controller in the mix in some capacity. Now that presents another set of challenges for me because these charge controllers, like I was saying earlier, they're as good as a charge controller in the AC200P. I thought these MPPT charge controllers was going to blow power stations out of the water, but they're not. They're the same. They're all doing 150 volts. Now they have flexibility in that they could do 12 volt, they could do 24 volt, and they could do what is it? 48 volt. Actually, let me go grab it. I'll be right back. It's up. I have the battery power. Let's put some respect on their name. The battery power inverter, a charge controller. Um, you can see some of the ports there. Ports are not labeled in any way, which is interesting. It has a screen on it. Okay, so I would like to use this. I need to make a video on it. My eyes are getting old, so I can't really see all of this stuff without adequate light. It's its official name is, I guess, the Sunrock 60 MPPT solar charge controller. I did like that it had a fan on it. A lot of charge controllers don't. And I think when you remove this little panel right here, it has two screws, then you'll probably see more stuff related to the ports that are down here. So I want to start using that. Um, and it got me into this space where I would entertain doing like 24 volt, but because it's not an all-in-one, and when I go 24 volt, then I would need a 24 volt inverter. So that basically shoots me in the foot. I can't do that. I'm not going to buy a 24 volt inverter when the goal, I feel like, is to get to 48 volts anyway. So I'm gonna have to deal with the 700 watts of solar. And that'll probably be 3 of these panels in series for about 900 watts of solar, which is fine. And then I could have them kind of up against the fence in a series array. This is like, I guess, the best like sun zone, because at some point the sun is gonna give me shade right here because it's going behind my house. So if it's on an axis, this is east and this is west, and then this is south. So nothing faces perfectly south in my situation. The sun starts over here and ends over here. So my house is right here. my house starts to cast shadows on here, starting there, and then it eventually like overtakes all of it. So maybe I can do 3 panels in series into my batteria power joint, and then have that charge in the TimGot battery. The TimGot battery is a 300 amp hour battery, and it has a 200 amp hour BMS, which is nice. And once I hook the inverter up to it, I got 2,000 watts of 120 volts. So realistically, let's walk through that process. So those three are in series for a total of 900 watts. You'll never get that. These things probably put out at this angle. They don't perform very well, but they were used panels, so I don't know if the degradation is a problem or if the angle could be a problem. But let's just say a 300 watt panel, I probably get like 200. Let's just call it 200 watts. So it's 400 watts, 600 watts, all from that array right here. Then that leaves 3 panels. I probably would use this one as a float to accompany this array right here for the AC200P. So that would get what it gets when it gets it, and then this will catch everything else. So these 3 panels, if I take one of these out of the mix and bring it to the front yard, then that leaves 2. And I could put those 2 in parallel, maybe, and then run them into some other power station. But then that's still a situation, yeah, where I have 2 cables. Yeah, this, man, that sucks. Because this would be a cable coming in. If I put these 2 in any configuration, that's going to be a cable coming in. This single panel will go up to the front, so that's fine. But now this thing that's going into my upstairs window would essentially be coming into the basement. So that'd be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 sets of cables coming in. Well, right now it's probably like 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. No, it's like 5. So yeah, I can't win, man. I'm always trying to figure this stuff out. Now I had the Oops Mega 2 for a while. I ran through 3 of those devices with them losing their ability to keep charged if the battery got to a certain percentage. And they never offered to send me a fourth. I just kept running into issues on them. Never offered to send me a fourth. It's fine. I actually needed to exchange my Oops 1800 with them, which was a painless process. Is my zoom, my focus off a little bit? Possibly. And they were asking me if they wanted to work together during the December months, but I don't know for what device. They'll probably try to get me to make a video on the Mega 1, which I wouldn't be mad at, honestly. I mean, I haven't even hit 10K subs yet, so I would want the Mega 2. I had a fantastic idea for the Mega 3 or the Mega 5 if they would just take the chance. The video will probably do crazy numbers for my channel. I don't know if it would compare to anybody else. For example, the TimGot video is at 10,000 views, I believe, which is fantastic. I'm learning something about these videos, and it's something that Marquez Brownlee told me about. Not me personally, but he made a video. I said that like me and him was chatting on. That's hilarious. He was saying that you basically have to find a way to speak to the value in a product. You either need to be able to praise the product or you need to be able to like speak to its dysfunction. And he's like, that can be hard as a tech reviewer because a lot of tech is just, it's good. It's good, it's really good, or it's not as good, but not a lot of things are like dope and then trash. And those are the 2 extremes that will get the most views. So that's something that's interesting to play with. But, you know, I deal with the cards that I'm dealt. You know what I mean? Not everything is fantastic. My goal in making these videos is to give like a practical feature set with the implications of those features. That's always been like the lane that I wanted to occupy, because that's what I want when I watch the video. My favorite part of Hobotech's videos is towards the end, where he talks about like the device in totality, like why you would consider it, why you shouldn't consider it, so on and so forth. And then Will, I think, did it very well, where he went through the specs, he tested as well, but then he also gave you a practical summary. When I first started this, channel, I knew I wasn't going to be able to out review reviewers. So that was just something that I didn't want to go that way. I don't know if you noticed, but I don't call any of my videos reviews. That's what people call them, but I don't think they're reviews. Because I'm talking about the device. I'm not necessarily going and putting it through its paces. Like Jason Noy and Hobotech, they review products. I don't review products. I talk about them practically. I talk about them as it relates to really using them. For example, I'm going to talk about it in the AC50B video, but the Blue Eddy 200-watt panel, it unfolds in an interesting way that's different from everything else. Like even if you look at this Yolanda's, most panels fold in a W. This one kind of folds over on itself, 1, 2, 3 times, instead of folding in a collapse, like a west side type of situation. And it's really, in some ways, it's not as convenient to deploy that way, because it only has one handle on it. So it doesn't have a handle on the other side. So what you have to do in order to move it is you have to kind of fold it up. And then once it's folded up, you have to clasp it around the edges. Whereas like every other panel, if you got two handles, whether you clasp anything or not, you could just hold the two handles and it'll stay together. I feel like there's not a whole lot of channels that talk about stuff like that. It may come out in a video because they're using it and they're making note of it, but it people don't. I don't think a lot of people talk about these products from a usability standpoint, and that's my big thing. I want to talk about them from usability, actually using them. All right, let me see what y'all snapping and trapping about. So you talked about the inverter with the DC charging enhancer. Be sure to plug in solar first, because before connecting to the power station. Doing this in reverse can blow a fuse in the charging enhancer. Okay, so what now, Sleeper? I know it's late over there. I appreciate you hanging out when you did. Be sure to plug in solar first. Plug in solar to the charge enhancer first before connecting to the power station. So if I connect it to the power station first and then plug solar in, that could blow a fuse. That's interesting. Is that theoretical, or are you applying the MPPT rule to that? Because Will is always talking about, like, you hook your charge controller up to the battery first and then solar. But I think on one video, I wish I could remember what video it was, he said, he's done it in the reverse order and nothing ever happens. So I wonder if on older technology you couldn't do that, but on the newer technology they maybe build in over voltage protection, things like that, so you don't have that problem anymore. But all of the instructions that I've heard is to hook your charge controller up to the battery first and then do solar. I believe that's how that works. Let me scroll down and see if you said anything. What's up, Manny? Hey, Darlene. Kimberjack, what's happening? It's been a minute. How the heck are you? Hopefully all is well. Okay. Lowe's didn't answer. All is well. Grand Acres. Vivor is interesting. It mostly seems good for the money. Yeah. Harbor Freight is great for the money unless you need something to last for a real long time, which is how I like all my stuff to last, but it is what it is. He needs hold music. Looks like the power mister, that's a fact. Could use 24 volt to DC to charge some power stations.
Jojo. Yep.
That's interesting. That could be an option in some capacity, but it shoots my inverter in the foot. My inverter then has nothing to do. But let's say I create a situation where yeah, I don't see that working. That seems counterproductive. I want to get the more solar in, but it would be more solar at the cost of benching my fancy inverter because then I can't use it anymore. So let's say I go 24 volt with my charge controller. I go 24 volt with my charge controller to a 24 volt battery array, a battery setup, which is what would be required. So then the charge controller is being used there. Then I would be back to charging the Tim got battery with just an AC charger. Hey guys, nah. All right. It's like if you're gonna be on your phone, go be on your phone. If you're gonna play your Xbox, play your Xbox. I did notice that Setai did comment. I can hear them more than y'all can hear them. They do come through on the microphone, but it's not as loud as I hear them. So I have to try and keep that in mind. But then it disturbs me because I don't like talking with a whole lot of background noise around me. My wife will be talking and she'll be vacuuming or something like that. Or I'm in the living room and she's in the kitchen and she's talking to me and I'm like, babe, I just stop. Don't talk to me across that gap. I don't want to. No, I don't know. So yeah, there's no, the only scenario that I could see working. Sure, I could charge power stations more quickly at 24 volts. That could work. And then I would have to charge up my Tim got battery through an AC charging situation, which is fine. Because then that would still allow me to use the inverter, which gives me 120 volt, which is what I'm after. That's very important to me. It could work. I can see that working. I know the visual helps. I sometimes I'll get out and I'll grab a second phone, and then I'll walk around the house and show stuff. If my if my electricity goes out, which it could, because it's on solar, it's on power stations, I'll probably do that and then walk around and show you guys what I have to do to disconnect the situation. It'll be dark, but there's a lamp down there I could plug into something. I have to think about that. Probably have to set up a power station to power the lamp down there. Um, I'm overdue for a walkthrough. I need to do a solar walkthrough. I probably should do one before I change things up, and then do one after I change things up. That would be interesting. All right, caught a live. Yes, you did. What's happening? Hey. It's the opposite to the charge controller. Yeah, it is. I don't use a DC to DC anyway. All is well. I missed your last couple of lives. I'm glad all is well. That's all that matters. Now you don't need stuff to last forever. I buy a lot of tools to save money with a DIY project, but I don't do it for a living, so I don't need a durable tool. That's fair, but I guess I don't buy stuff just willy nilly for a project. So the stuff that I buy, I intend to use, and I need it to last for a while. But I get what you're getting at as it relates to durability. When I'm fixing a hydraulic cylinder, I'd rather spend $30 on disposable tools than 150 or more on durable tools. I'll need once or twice. Yeah, I'm going durable, but that's fair. I get that. Have you ever melted the MC4 connector? I have not. Mm-mm. I've melted some Anderson connectors twice, which is it has to be on me. But I think it was because those devices were similar. Maybe there was some false advertising about the cables. Maybe the cables weren't rated for the 15 amps that they say the power station was rated for. I don't know why these TVs are so loud. Let me address this really quickly. Oh, geez. Man, how long have we been going? Hour and 20 minutes. Where y'all at with these elections? I don't need to know how you're voting. I don't really care. There's people who've been coming to my house wanting to talk to me about voting. And I am genuinely not undecided in the truest sense because I don't think I would ever vote for Trump. Um, but I'm undecided in whether I want to vote for Harris. And if I could just be transparent, um, I don't think I'm going to vote for either of them. I don't want to contribute to either of them winning, and I don't think my vote carries any weight. I'm not one of these people who's like your vote matters. It's like no, my vote doesn't matter. My vote as an individual vote does not matter. That's like telling somebody your penny matters towards our goal of $100,000. Like it doesn't. I'm sorry. And then people will try to guilt trip you on social media and stuff like that. And I'm just like, man, if my vote matters, if I am responsible for anything, then I'm responsible for being 1/100,000th responsible for not voting. And I can take my responsibility for that. I don't have a problem with that. But the reason why I brought this up was not to talk about politics specifically, even though I don't mind talking about politics. But I did buy some more action for my joints. I got a couple more rounds of things, even though I can't imagine anything, but you just never know. I was watching this. I've watched a bunch of preparedness videos as it relates to things related to the election and Helene and so on and so forth. So cars is gassed. The only thing I have not done is I haven't pulled the cash out yet. I need to pull some cash out. Uh, Dang, we need tires. I need to take care of that, and I really only have Monday to do it. Now I did order some stuff, right? The the joints for the action. I ordered that, and the store near me didn't have it. So I'm having it shipped to me, and they were like, "Yeah, it'll get to you. Um, it'll get to you on the 5th." I'm like, "Dang, okay." So now I went to check my. Hey guys, y'all are like this close to being sent away with your phones, and not because you're doing anything bad or terrible. I just need you to be a little more quieter, okay? All right. Um, I ordered 3 7-gallon water bins, so that gives my family roughly like 3 days of water storage. They were like $20 a pop. They were the ones that I found on Amazon, but they were out of stock, possibly due to the Hurricane Helene stuff. Um, and that's supposed to be getting here on the 4th, but then I go to check my shipping details, my tracking, and they're like, it's not going to get here till the 8th. So I hope nothing happens in between transit, even if something doesn't happen in my particular city, in my state. I hope something doesn't happen on the way to get me my stuff. That's kind of where I'm at with it. You're right, actually. You say PA is a big swing state. Um, your vote is is the most important. Now, PA's situation is the most important. My vote is more important than some other places, but is still not, my individual vote is still not that important. And I refuse to think otherwise. You can't convince me to think otherwise. I'm trying to get rid of parallel connectors because I've melted like 5. I don't understand the parallel connector situation. I don't even understand, unless you're dealing with 100 watt panels, how can you take a 4 or 5-way parallel connector and not expect to have any issues on it? I don't think, I wonder if they give ratings on parallel connectors. I've never seen any, but I've only bought like the 2-way splitters. And the most you could put it through that on most, I guess, kind of consumer panels is probably like 15 to what, 20 volt, 20 amps. Um, yeah, I don't know. That's interesting. I'm gonna wear my Trump fist pump shirt for early voting tomorrow. Okay. Oh man, did you live in PA? I'm surprised you're not a Trump supporter. Really? That's interesting. Why can you articulate why you would think I would be a Trump supporter? We talked about that. One thing to consider is how much power you lose to the number of power stations you use. How much power you lose to the number of power stations. If you could only have one AC power, give me a little. Can you air that out a little bit, Jr.?
Yep.
I'm not sure when you commented that and what that's in reference to. So give me a little context there. I'm in Missouri. My state is red though, and though through and through. But PA is the biggest swing state for the last few elections. I'm from PA. I live in PA. I'm not from here, but Rambling Bob, what's happening? Oh, you should go and shake Elon's hand. He's been doing campaign work in PA for a while, I guess. What's that? Oh, yeah. I'll talk about politics all the time. Politics, Christianity, race. I don't care. I've never heard anyone who has decided yet. Yeah, my thing is, I don't know if I'm gonna vote or not. I will vote locally, but I don't know if I'm gonna vote in the presidential election. I really, just as a Christian, a follower of Jesus, I've been having these conversations about where faith and voting intersect. And my white brothers and sisters, they believe that Trump is appointed by God. um, I don't see it that way. Abortion is a big, probably shouldn't have said that word on a live stream because that could be seen as controversial. But just that's a pretty touchy subject. Um, I don't know. I don't know, man. Yeah, that's the undecided piece. Now let me. I don't know if I said this the last time. Just to put a kind of button on this, unless you guys want to continue to take the conversation that way. Um, I don't like where the Democrats are going. I feel like, in my uninformed, semi-informed, non-researched opinion, the Democrats have always promised a lot to. Have they? Have they promised a lot to Black voters? I don't know if they have, especially not on the presidential level. But just politicians in general, the Black community often feels very let down by the presence during the political season, and then you ghost us during everything else. You really don't have. We're not feeling an impact of what's being offered to us from politicians on the Democratic side. Um, so with that in consideration, and then with the push towards the LGBTQ stuff, it's like that lane is shifting. And with being a person of faith, I wonder about this direction. And then on the other side, because I feel like, because of the economic state of the country, like, here's the problem. Politicians have been creating boogeymen for years, and now the boogeymen are real. So now this logic that we've had for the last like 20 years, 25 years of trying to scare you into what could possibly happen is like actually happening now. Or at least it's getting close to it. Because I feel like for the last couple of elections, they've always talked about like, yeah, it's the economy, stupid, it's the economy. But I feel like now it kind of really is about the economy. It was like a red herring uh many moons ago. But that's the interesting thing to me. I'm sorry, can you turn that down, please?
I already did.
Thank you. So I don't necessarily like the direction that Dems are going in. I'm an independent, and I do feel like in this current state, we could use some Republican energy. That's kind of how I feel. I'm talking, you're being rude. What do you need?
Can I have my phone?
Sure. Do you need help?
Yes.
Who wants to help your sister?
Um.
Okay, thank you.
What do I help her with?
She needs her phone. Let's see if Manny gave me some logic to why I should be a Trump supporter.
Thank you.
Doesn't Paul say the leaders we have are appointed by God? Grab me the verse. I feel like the leaders that we have are. I don't know if they're appointed, but I think that God allows what happens to happen because He gives us free will, and He knows what's going to happen, so He works with what we've presented as His creation. That's my take on it. But I'd have to look at the verse. What we should do is we should have a political live stream. That would be fun. Just like not about solar, straight up. Let's talk politics. Let's bring your most reasonable point of view, because a lot of times when you talk about politics, you got to get people past the talking points and into how they really reasonably feel about things, instead of just parroting off of the things that they hear from their selective corners. Let me scroll back up. Let me scroll back up. Let me scroll back up. Okay, we talked about it being undecided. Thanks for the reminder. I forgot to pull cash out in Georgia. Had to use solar as well as gas. It was a learning experience. I dig it. Glad you were prepared. I just know that my setup should be like 20 amps or so, but the parallels keep melting. Yeah, I think the 20 amps is too much. Just the connectors are yeah, that's what I think. But what do I know? I'm semi prepared. It was okay. You're talking to Grand Acres. If a parallel is ever loose at all, it will heat up very quickly and start to melt because you are very logical. And I'm guessing you're a believer. Yes, I am. I've been trying to convert him, but he is blocked. Whatever. Doesn't Paul? I would love to get into that, but I don't have time at the moment. 10 days, no power. I used my gas to help power my solar. It was hot. Yikes. Uh, I think Paul meant the monarchy, not elected leaders. That's a very good point as well. Um, yeah, really have to look into that. Because the situation with the king, like God didn't want the people of Israel to want a king, but they wanted to be like everybody around them, like give us a king. And then he gave them Saul, and then Saul was like good money for a little bit with the guidance of Samuel, but then he started wilding and being disobedient, and that's where we get King David from. And it's like he wanted to rule, but the people begged, and he acquiesced. Is it acquiesced? In Romans 13:1, Paul states that all governing authorities, including the government we have, are appointed by God. Okay, let's deviate. I'm sorry for any of y'all that don't like it, but Romans 13:1. Let's see here. So let me push back on this. Nothing is a throwaway vote. This is what I'm talking about. This idea of like saying stuff. If my vote matters, then how I vote is important and it is counted. They don't not count the independent votes. They don't not count the Green Party votes. Setsai actually made a good point that I've never researched, but he said, you know, if someone in the Green Party or whatever can get up to 5% of the vote, then they don't have to go through the petitions to try and be on the ballot every election cycle. Um, yeah, I don't subscribe to that. It's like it's either my vote counts or it doesn't count. It can't be both. There are no throwaway votes. I've voiced my opinion with my vote, and how the chips fall is how it falls. I think it's on the politicians to convince me to choose them. I don't want to be forced into this binary decision because I know that one of y'all are gonna win. It's like, well, no, I don't want any of y'all. I kind of believe that at a certain point. Oh, actually, there's a couple things. So there are some states. I learned this through talking with Setai because I'm not into politics as heavy as I used to be many moons ago. Um, but some states have the ability to split their electoral college votes. I think that that's dope. I think that that's the way that we should be going. I don't know what problems could arise from that because I haven't heavily researched it, but it shouldn't be a winner take all situation, in my opinion. But who am I? And then I also think that if a certain amount of the populace does not come out to show support for a particular candidate, and I feel like we should be able to do a do over. But then money comes up into play because then people have to get money to campaign, and I feel like that's where the money being in politics all heavy is a problem. So it's like I'm back. People like me are backed into a corner of having to decide what to do in these situations, um, and I'm just like, I don't know what I'm gonna do. 13:1. I wish I could get to the verse because I want to be able to read that. Consequently, whoever, blah 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 blah. Let's see. This is also why you pay taxes, for the authorities are God's servants who give their full time to governing. Give to everyone what you owe. Then, if you owe taxes, pay taxes. If revenue, then revenue. If respect, then respect. If honor, then honor. I'm reading NIV right now, so I don't know if the language is going to be the same. And I'm going to say very distinctly that I feel, because that's just me and my humanity. I'm no whatever. I feel like the system is what we have. God allowed the system. He allows us to vote, and how that comes out is how it comes out. Now, I think that we could need certain things for an appointed time, but I think people confuse what God allows with what He wants. And then I think people also confuse God's will with what is best. Like, even if God has a will for a certain thing, it doesn't necessarily mean that that was the best situation. I know that sounds interesting, but all I mean is this. If one of my kids, I want them to go to college, or start a business, or so on and so forth, or be diligent in a particular thing. But because they're not going to college, not starting a business, not being diligent in a particular thing, what is best for them was to do those things. But now, what my will for them is to experience life in some other way. You know what I mean? And I'm not trying to put myself in a position of being right about a thing. I'm like, for example, the verse that says all things work together for the good of those who love the Lord and are called according to his purposes, or whatever the verse says. Um, Even when you go a route you're not supposed to go, there's consequences. You do a thing you're not supposed to do. There's fallout. but it's still gonna work out. So I think that we improperly associate things coming to fruition as that being perfect will. You know what I'm saying? So that's why I get a little bit I don't feel any way about it, but I get a little like raise my eyebrow with people saying like he Trump is supposed to be president. Maybe he is, but it's not like I don't know if it's like because God favors him in such a way, because he's such a fantastic whatever, because he's going to do such a great job, that's why he's destined to be in there. It could be that that dude's whatever could cause a great calamity to happen, and then people will acknowledge that they don't need to be relying on Trump to make America great, but as individuals they need to be better believers in serving and caring for the people that are around them by loving God first, loving your neighbor. You know what I mean? So it's an interesting thing. All right, let's see. Yeah, Green Party could have, yeah, whatever. Yeah, you can feel the way you feel about a throwaway vote. If the vote's counted, it's counted. So it may not be a vote that will impact the path of the things, but it's not a throwaway vote. But if you feel that way, that's cool. Full Sun, I've seen 30 M's. I honestly don't want either party to have a majority. They are both reckless towards the common person, but I definitely don't want treason. Trump winning, he's showing me everything. I need it. January 6th. Oh, that's interesting. The January 6th thing is interesting as well. I have not so popular views on that. It's sad, but we have a two-party system. Yeah, that's. I feel like that's a throwaway logic. I can live in reality while both desiring for something better and putting forth my very minuscule effort towards bringing that better thing to fruition. Okay, gotta go. Just stopped in to support you on your way to 10,000. I appreciate that. We have a stream starting at 7 p.m. tonight, 5 minutes. Oh man, that's what's up. Hopefully it's still on. There's a way that which you can transition somebody from one stream to another. Ramblin' Bob does like deep dives on these devices. Uh, he gets into um, all kinds of stuff and messing around with them. He gives multiple updates and so on and so forth. Um, so I wish him all the success in the YouTube space. No politician or analyst makes a decision based on a vote for a third party. They look at I'm not going to get caught up into that because we just going to disagree. They pay attention to black men for going for Trump, for example. They don't look at black men voting independent. That's fine. I'm okay with that. At most, they can look it up as a spoiler, which has limited value. It should, though. Okay. We also need to remember the devil still has a dog in the fight. I don't think all leaders are God's choice for us. That's a fact. I agree with that. But they say we get the leaders we deserve. That's where I'm at. Period. So in that sense, considering free will, you could say that they all are still appointed. Maybe, yeah. Well, I think you get the leader you deserve. I agree with that. The wrinkle is that most people of faith don't vote. I need to see what the percentage is. Yeah, me and a homeboy of mine, you make a good point, Ive, about human choice. A good, we've been talking about this and just coming to the conclusion that we're improperly conflating things of a spiritual nature with things of a human nature. It is your civic duty to vote. I was on my men's meeting call on yesterday, just talking about the political process. Um, and as people of faith, and I think that if you feel as a person of belief that God is telling you to vote, that God is telling you who to vote for, that you feel conviction in that regard, I'd say go for it. Vote your convictions. But what I don't agree with is this idea that this very like human American thing is uh, a spiritual declaration of any kind. And I don't know if I'm using my words properly, but I don't feel compelled. Um, I think Trump is a little too volatile for me, and the Democrats are a little too liberal. They're a little too far left in how they've moved. So I don't know if I necessarily want to be associated with either of them winning. And I just, I whether I think, um, the economy could use some Republican energy or the country could use some Republican energy. I don't want it wrapped in Trump's wrapper. You know what I mean? So, but that's the choices we got on deck. So, where are we at? Good 20, 25 minutes on that. Um, Tomorrow is Saturday. This is a cable I was looking for. My little short USB A to Lightning joint for my iPhone, right in my pocket. I have to figure out what I'm gonna do um, tomorrow because I want to make some progress. I think I may replace that cable, even if I don't swap out the panels. I'm gonna replace this 10 gauge 40. I'm gonna measure the cable first because I do believe it's like 40 foot. I don't want to put another. I don't want to replace a 10 gauge 50-foot cable with a 12 gauge 50-foot cable because that doesn't help me much. But I do believe it's a 40 because I was basically, when I was going through the process of buying that cable, I was doing it based on how far I wanted it to reach in my front yard. And that was before I understood how much shade my house cast on my front yard in a situation. So I'm gonna change that out. I think I'm gonna change that out tomorrow. The reason why I'm hesitant is because that cable situation coming into my window right there is pretty sweet. I got like the towel laid in there really good, the windows down on it. I even had cut a hole through some plastic that was there. The plastic is now gone. So it's like it's working. It's hard for me to adjust stuff when it's working, but I feel like I just have to do it in order to set the groundwork for being able to put a 300-watt panel on that dip. I'm definitely gonna play around a bit. And I don't know when these videos will make it to Patreon because I don't know if I want to have Patreon out of order as well. Are you slapping my controller? I feel like put it down. I'm gonna give you one more chance. You don't handle stuff like that. Because the minute it's broken and it stops working, you're gonna be calling on daddy to get a replacement or to figure something out. Turn around and look at me. Don't do that again, okay? What? All right. Uh, 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 uh. Facts. If anybody runs a campaign that says make people great again, I'm on board. Democrat or Republican, because people suck. Y'all don't be people who suck. Because it's really getting out of hand. People don't have no common sense. They don't know how to do nothing. They don't want to do anything. They're on the edge of like just cussing you out, and it's just like, man, it's interesting out here. That's for sure. It's very interesting out here in these streets, man. So be better people. Be more patient. Be more kind. And that that's the great folly in humanity. It's like we suck. Um, I believe in Jesus, and I feel like if you follow the tenets of what Jesus is telling you to do, you'll be a better person. Um, you know, there's the role that the Holy Spirit plays in your life if you yield, if you read your word, if you I kind of want to put Setai on the spot, but I won't. Uh, if you're in community with other believers who can um, admonish you, who can uh, be there for you, correct you, um, support you, love you, I think that it's all of those pieces that come together to make you a better person to ultimately fulfill God's purpose for you on this earth. So just be better people. We really need to get there, man. It's just weird out here in these streets. Oh man, for a party that doesn't have an abortion plus a declaration convention, nah, you're being interesting, but it is what it is. I just got to manage by my preach yesterday. I need it from you today. Yes, you do. Yes, you do. Me and Setai have had conversations about, Catholicism and Protestantism. Um, I'm just gonna leave it there. Oh man, I'm looking forward to, um, but also my bro always reminds me that just in a biblical sense, things are not going to get better in mass. Uh, I sometimes give pushback that even though we acknowledge that the times are going to get worse, that doesn't mean that we can't still. I mean, we're supposed to share the gospel anyway, but we can't still try to have a positive impact on people. Um, but yeah, I think we see where this this ship is going. But man, we just out here, trying to love my wife well and raise these kids to make good decisions and to be who God has created them to be. And in the meantime, I got some solar power for running my house and got the action for defending my stuff and buy a little extra so that if times get interesting, we ain't gotta be out there with all the riffraff losing their minds and all of that jazz. So um, you know, one thing I'm not worried, but we try to be prepared out here in these streets. Yes, indeed. It's a lot of things. It is a lot of things. Um, so if nobody has any questions, I feel like we could politic it up a little more, or we could call it a wrap. It don't matter to me. My kiddos is getting some screen time in, and they're doing it quietly, so I can't complain. Let me give you another thing. So these people are coming to my house, right? Asking me, if I'm gonna vote, and I'll be like, I don't know. I was having this conversation with this lady. She happened to be Jamaican, and she was. Nobody from Trump has come to my house. That's for sure. It's all been for Harris, and you could see them almost be flabbergasted when I tell them, like, yeah, I'm kind of undecided. You know what I mean? I don't know, but I think what kind of I truly believe that one time. Oh, you know what? So this one lady came to my house and she was saying that she was a union worker. And I was having this moment where I really had to reflect on how the media plays a role in how our opinions form, because she was talking about how I guess Trump was anti-union. And I was like, you know what? That's interesting, because I wonder if he is, what's the motivation for that? Because we know that we get exposed to a narrative that these teachers suck and you can't get rid of them because why? The teachers union. We also, in a certain way, can get exposed to, especially as people who lean Democrat. Um, some of these police officers suck, but you can't do a whole lot with them either because of the police union. So I think in some ways, even just those two examples can give unions a bad name, but overall, collective bargaining, collective negotiation, and things like that is somewhat of a good thing, right? So I was just kind of processing through this thing of like, yeah, we kind of you could kind of be lulled into thinking that, like, yeah, you should be anti-union because these unions is wilding, but are they really wilding? You know what I mean? Like, or do we have bad examples that we make the poster child for the conversation in order to move our narrative forward? And when I say our, I mean the politicians who kind of want to get rid of unions. But I feel like no matter how you cut it, somebody is always on the other end of the argument looking to take advantage. I think that we see this with
I can't even help
guys,
it.
y'all are being distracting to me. Okay. Um say what's the like the global warming climate change stuff. Uh no matter how you land on it, I believe that something is happening. I feel like people I always kind of point to me watching my shows that are based in Alaska and so on and so forth. Like the people who are out there in the wilderness in the elements all the time are definitely noticing something being different than what it used to be. So we went from global warming to climate change. And while that is a notable thing, while it appears to be a notable thing, let me say that there's always someone looking to politicize it for either political gain, financial gain, or some other type of gain. So then we have these kind of topics that get used to push a narrative where it's like somewhere in the center, there's things that we actually need to be able to address, but we can't address them because they're making us pick sides. Um, so it's an interesting thing just to process through that. Uh, and then I was letting her know that, she was like, what has Trump done over the last 4 years? Because she was like, you want 4 years of Trump? And I'm like, I made it through the last four. Like, what? You know what I mean? I was cool. I made it through these four with Biden too. Like, that was cool. I mean, we had some challenges during both administrations, but um, like what I don't know. There I feel like I had long come to terms with sometimes Republicans are going to run the country and sometimes Democrats are going to run the country for better or worse. It's like what somebody commented on a video, somebody commented on something on Facebook and said, "Yeah, but Trump's policies are going to be harmful." And I'm like, "Well, they're Republican policies. Like they can't lose all the time. There's going to be Republican policies. Like, what are we talking about here? You got adults acting like they can't weather or make it through a Trump presidency or a Biden presidency. And it's the same on both sides. It's like people are complaining about Biden, whatever you want to attribute to him or not attribute to him, you hopefully will be okay. Leaner times, challenging times, unless you die, unless you perish. You know what I mean? It's like for the most part, and I'm not trying to be insensitive, but I'm just speaking to just in general. You know, the Obama presidency, the Bush presidency, the Clinton presidency. Did Gore even win? Was he president? Or was he just vice president? Uh, Bush's pops, like you know, even when the stuff with the babies comes up and I'm like the stuff with the babies wasn't always legal, guys. It wasn't always legal. I don't know what it was before Roe v. Wade, but and then it didn't necessarily even become illegal. It just went to the states. So if you want to get rid of something so bad, then if you got to move somewhere, then go move. Do what you got to do. Like, I don't know. All right, let's see. um we should be molding ourselves after the image of Christ. If it doesn't align with his character and principles, I can't rock with it. But that's how I'm moving. And I feel like that's how you should be moving. That's interesting. You should have told me sooner and I could have tried to shame the Trump people. That's some ground game if they haven't knocked on your door. Uh Interesting. I don't know what you're saying there. Are you saying like intentionally push back against ideas being shared by people who come to your door by who are Trump supporters or campaigning for Trump? I don't know anyone, but I still could have tried. Yeah, see, our motivations are very different, sir. Um, I love unions, but not the teachers' union. Yeah, that's fair. But she was saying Trump was anti-union. Is he? I don't know. Because teaching is a government endeavor, it makes the teachers' union a different entity. Fair. But here's the thing: Republicans are traditionally anti-union, but peep game. After COVID, the average worker had the employee over the barrel. What did Democrats do? Reduce border security. Okay, connect some dots for me there. So I can sense the ridiculousness of how Democrats move. I still want to connect those dots. Flood the market with cheap labor. I got you. Kevin, what's happening? We need Trump to bring back stop and frisk. Interesting. I have to run. Catch you later. I'll be blessed. Thanks for hanging out, man. I appreciate you. You said you said only Harris campaign talked to you. Yeah, I think um, it could be because before I was an independent, I was registered as a Democrat. So maybe I'm still kind of in the system. And because I'm independent, they feel like, okay, well, how is this guy going to vote? They could be just intentionally wanting to talk to me because I'm an independent. That could be what's going on. That actually makes a lot of sense. Right on, slavery would have worked itself out if it stayed with the states. Uh, if it stayed with the states without a civil war killing tons of people. That is interesting. I'm not going to get into that one. It's always choosing the lesser of two evils. That's interesting. Interesting. Um, I will say you say the lesser of two evils, but let's dig into that saying a little bit. Do you genuinely believe? Because I would say it's like choosing between the lesser of two very flawed humans. I don't necessarily see these people as evil. I don't think of Barack as evil. I don't think of Biden as evil. I don't think of Bush as evil. I don't think of his dad as evil. I don't think of some people who didn't win, Huckabee, the Mormon dude, Romney, uh, Buttigieg. I did not know he was in a G in the LGBT joint. I feel like that has never come up. I don't watch a whole lot of him, but I think he has a partner or whatever. Um, it's interesting. Yeah, I don't. But what do we mean when we say the lesser of two evils? I guess evil motives, evil intentions, so on and so forth. Because I don't see those people. I guess Elizabeth Warren. I don't see those people as evil. So that's an interesting. I'm saying. Just I'm kind of processing through that now. Hmm. Long live Abe Lincoln. That is a wild take. My understanding is that slavery in the South, but not the North, was the state resolution. Interesting. I think good people can do evil works. The people aren't evil. They do bad things with good intentions, or bad things with bad intentions, or bad things because they're greaseballs. Yeah. Hmm. Yeah. I hear that a lot, though. I mean, it's like a very common statement, but I'm processing it a little further. Um, yeah. I just think we're just like we're raggedy people, and raggedy people do raggedy things. Uh, and being a believer, I think that God's redemptive, uh, redeeming me in some capacity, I'm less raggedy, but I'm raggedy too. This might make someone mad, but we should celebrate an entire month for our veterans before any type of Pride Month. That's a trap. I think that like putting two things in opposition to each other so that one wins out is really it's an understandable way of thinking, but it's really an odd way of thinking because what we never get to is the goal. Like, let's take better care of our veterans. Point blank, period. Um, period. Like, just like, what do they say? Full stop. But what we do is we'll say Hurricane Helene survivors can't get help from their government, but we could send aid to Ukraine. What does that accomplish in vocalizing that other than getting people angry? We really need to genuinely sit down and figure out a way to talk about these budgets and the reality of these budgets and how they work and see if we can reallocate um, funds for well overseas aid or whatever um, and take care of our folks. Like even with Trump with the Make America Great Again stuff, I don't know that his efforts uh set out to accomplish that. And then he set out to accomplish it and just the governing system just kind of like gets in the way as it does with anybody trying to accomplish anything. So it's an interesting thing. Um for example, I feel like let's just have a veterans month. Period. Like let them people have what they got going on. Even though I'm not into that, I don't support that. It is what it is. But we need to stop trying to override what other people have going on. I don't like the fact that we took Columbus Day and made it Indigenous Peoples Day. And I'm like, man, what you gotta take that man day for? And if you're gonna take it, then take it. You know what I mean? Don't rebrand it. Celebrate Indigenous people. Period. It's like this rebranding stuff just annoys me. Like, man, just stop it. Stop the foolishness. You co-opting another person's situation. I'm not into that. Let's put the full force of the thing into the full force of the thing and make it a real thing instead of pitting one idea against the other. Um, I have told this. My wife and I have talked about this over the years. If believers weren't so believers, if people who call themselves Christians in positions of power weren't so hard on people who found themselves in a sinful situation of being attracted for whatever reason to a person of the same sex, I don't think we would be here where pride is necessary. But there was a blatant oppression of that particular group and sect of people. And I think that's why we find ourselves in a place where it's a blatant celebration. Now, being a person of faith, I think that there are certain evil forces at play that are pushing towards a particular thing, but I think that play a role. So that's my take. That's definitely my take. Let's see what y'all got. I know, right? Just on solar talking about pride people. We talking about politics a little bit. It be like that. I feel like what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna try and schedule a straight up political stream before election day. Maybe on Monday. Yeah. I know, right? Get my whole channel deleted. All right. Let's see. Say what you say about you is right. I feel like you're just saying incendiary things now, so I'm just gonna have to move on from that, Kevin. I don't know enough about that situation to make that kind of statement. Maybe you do, but what you have to call into question is where did you get your information from? Because my understanding of that situation, and I don't want to have an overly left leaning perspective. It be like that sometimes because it just is what it is. But them cats were kids; they weren't necessarily in that area. Um, him taking out an ad and doing all of that interesting stuff. But again, I don't pretend to know the particulars, so I don't want to jump to anyone's defense. But the stuff that I understand from whatever vantage point I got it from, it didn't seem like it deserved that particular. Like, man, people just take into account that people are swift to judge without having the information. We're seeing the same thing with people responding to police shootings. Are some of them bad? Are some of them murder? Absolutely. But sometimes the angle you saw the video from, you ain't see the dude having a gun. It'd be like that sometimes. So, you know what I mean? I don't know. Yeah, 100%. That's what we need to be rallying for. Instead of, because what we do when we pit ideas against each other, we start with an argument. We start combatively. We start by creating enemies. Like I imagine that there are people who are in the coalition of the letters who have veterans in their family too. So why take from them to give to veterans? Let's just all decide we gonna give to veterans. You know what I mean? I just feel like that's a better way forward. When I say evil, I'm speaking in terms of harmful practices. We are all works in progress. I dig it. I dig it. I dig it. It's pretty sad the government has to be politically correct. Makes me nauseous. You know, it be like that sometimes. Did Adele come through here? All right, folks. Let me know. What I'll do is I think I'm really gonna have the stream. We'll probably do it Sunday or Monday, and we'll politic. Uh, And if you want, I'm gonna make it blatantly apparent like this will not be about solar. There may be a little preparedness angle, but I really don't want to be deceptive in pulling people in from the solar channel um, to talk about it. But I think it's an important conversation. So maybe I'll do it. If I feel like God is telling me don't do it, then I won't. So um, God willing, we'll see how it goes. All right, it's been a hot two. Y'all be beautiful. Thanks for hanging out. I appreciate it. I'll still be around in the chat and all that jazz.